hooked on absolute power and the attendant influence and wealth it brings, its sudden loss is a hammer blow. A few months after the November 2017 coup, Mugabe told an AU representative how miserable he and his family were, especially his wife, Grace, for whom losing her title First Lady consigned her to perpetual mourning. Actually, the Mugabes had good cause to be content. Yes, they lost their absolute power and their attendant influence, but they had their looted wealth, the blue roof mansion, the farms, the vast business empire, and their extravagant lifestyle was guaranteed thanks to the very generous golden handshake and retirement package Mnangagwa gave them. Other victims of the November 2017 coup, like Professor Jonathan Moyo, the long-serving former Zanu PF minister and Mugabe's self-appointed chief strategist, they were not so lucky. He lost absolute power, the influence, the wealth, and his freedom. Professor Moyo was lucky to escape with his life and has spent the last year holed up in exile. From there, he has sent out tweets and articles from time to time. The year of isolation, particularly for such an egotistic individual like him, has taken its heavy toll. There is evidence in his recent article to suggest the man is now a paranoid schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is defined as a chronic mental disorder in which a person loses touch with reality. Psychosis. That is according to Wikipedia. Professor Moyo has certainly lost touch with reality. In his article, he writes, last week on November 24th, Emerson Mnangagwa was in Murombezi, former President Robert Mugabe's village backyard in Mashonaland West, to commemorate his checkered 1 year in office following his controversial installation as president on November 24th, 2017, after the army unconstitutionally ousted Mugabe, wrote Professor Moyo in Blue 24. The Murombezi commemoration, also attended by retired General Constantino Chiwenga, who led the November 2017 military coup, was understandably disguised as Mnangagwa's thank you rally for his disputed election on July 30th, 2018, which has left him paralyzed by a crisis of legitimacy. This is because the military coup, which just about everybody now says was unconstitutional, has become a dirty word among the growing number of Zimbabweans whose livelihoods have been dramatically eroded over the last 12 months and are worse off today than they were before the coup, as a crippling economic meltdown becomes the order of the day. End of quote. The year spent holed up in some foxhole is certainly playing dirty tricks on Professor Jonathan Moyo's mind. Because one, whilst Mnangagwa has a serious legitimacy problem, it is not arising from last November's coup. It is arising from the failure to hold free, fair, and credible elections. Mnangagwa rigged the 30th of July 2018 elections, just as Zanu PF had rigged other past elections. Mnangagwa is just as illegitimate as Mugabe before him, And so last November, school was only to remove an illegitimate tyrant. Hence the reason why the world was not particularly concerned. 2, the crippling economic meltdown has got worse in the last year, but the root causes go back to 1980. And it is the 37 years of gross mismanagement and rampant corruption under Mugabe's leadership that landed the country into this mess. To suggest that it was Mnangagwa's doing is nonsense. To be fair to Professor Moyo, he had these good moments of insightful comprehension in the article. And I quote, "A cursory review of public discourse in Zimbabwe will readily show that the questions of the what and why of politics in the country are hardly, if ever, asked, let alone answered. This is because they invariably require the identification of the who has done, what, how, where, and when. That identification requires truth-telling, which always attracts ghastly consequences on the truth-teller," he wrote. It is against this backdrop that the challenge for the media and the academia in Zimbabwe, and indeed for ordinary Zimbabweans, is that they are not able to freely and meaningfully discuss and debate things, to tell the truth about things that have been done or are being done by the country's leadership. A major reason why the claim of a new dispensation after the military coup has proven to be false is that the non-discussability of things that have happened or are happening has remained to be the scourge of politics in Zimbabwe since 1980. Nothing has changed. In her critically acclaimed treatise, The Human Condition, Hannah Arendt describes as failure of speech where human beings find themselves unable to discuss or to reflect on things that are nonetheless done to in their society. Such a condition is a totalitarian because speech is a sign of human existence. It is in this connection that the freedom of expression is both a natural and constitutional right, because speech is an innate human quality that gives rise to an inalienable right. The populist historian Yuval Harari catalogues in his book *Sapiens* how speech has superbly distinguished human beings from other species by enabling them to cooperate flexibly in large numbers to accomplish complex tasks to benefit humanity. The essence of human freedom is thus the discussion of human action, namely truth-telling. A society that does not discuss what is happening or has happened within its borders is uncivilized, undemocratic, primitive, and doomed. Yet this is where Zimbabwe finds itself. 1 year after the military coup that Zimbabweans from across the political divide at home and in the diaspora celebrated in their numbers as Liberation Moment on November 18th, 2017. End of quote. There are four things well worth noting from Professor Moyo's moment of sanity. Ignore his obsession with seeing the coup as a moment of madness. 1. As Mugabe's military Minister of Information and Zanu PF's greatest propagandist and strategist, Professor Moyo has done the greatest harm in destroying freedom of expression and free press and stifled meaningful debate and democratic discourse in Zimbabwe than anyone else. 2. It is curious that it is only now that Professor Moyo acknowledges that stifling meaningful dialogue and truth-telling, Zanu PF condemned this nation to uncivilized, undemocratic, primitive, and doom, which is exactly what has happened. He admits it now when he has lost the absolute power and influence to stop the rot. 3. There is no denying that the de facto one-party Zanu PF dictatorship has been a curse to this nation. Zimbabwe is a broken nation. Indeed, identifying and acknowledging the evil of the dictatorship, which is exactly what Moyo is doing here, is a key first step in the search for a cure. 4. The second step is acknowledging that dismantling the dictatorship will be the greatest challenge of all. It is tough to build. It is easier to destroy than to build. And rebuilding is the toughest of them all. Worse still, when one has to fight those already enjoying absolute power, like Mnangagwa and his junta, determined to retain the dictatorship at all costs. 38 years and counting of corrupt and tyrannical Zanu PF who has frog-marched this nation to the edge of the precipice. Last November's military coup has been but a pause to boot out some of the leaders. And whatever minuscule differences this has made to the course and speed is of no material difference. What matters is Zimbabwe. Its economic meltdown has forced 75% of the population to live on US $1 or less a day, is socially, morally, and politically unsustainable. We are sitting on a ticking time bomb. The only way to defuse Zimbabwe's economic time bomb is for Zanu PF to step down to allow the nation to finally dismantle the Zanu PF dictatorship at the heart of the corrupt and tyrannical misrule. Time is not on our side. Thank you.